So we've circled back around to Trinity Prime. Well, I know I skipped a few, but honestly I'm going to do the touch-ups in a semi-random order, since I already have the list of ones I've done, already up on YouTube, so I can check to make sure I don't do the same one again or whatever. But anyways, yeah, let's jump right in. Base stats on a level 30 Trinity Prime are 482 health, 555 shields, 135 armor, 225 energy, and 1.1 sprint speed. Trinity's passive is allies within affinity range gain 50% of Trinity's max energy as additional health. And that does work on herself, by the way. It's a bit of an odd passive, but I actually like it. Her first ability is Well of Life, and as to what that is she picks up an enemy, and that enemy will absorb the status effect damage intended for nearby allies, including herself, of course. And allies gain additional health when they attack the target. If an ally dies within range, the enemy will die instead, and the person that was supposed to die will be immune for 5 seconds. That does have a 60-second cooldown, unfortunately, though. As for the immunity duration and the cooldown, those are not affected by mods, as is the number of Well of Life targets you can have, but the rest of it is. Her first ability does have an augment, that being Pool of Life, and that is, on death, marked enemies will drop 4 health orbs with a 100% chance of dropping an energy orb. The number of health orbs is not affected by mods, however, the percent chance of dropping an energy orb is. Her second ability is Energy Vampire, and what that is she marks an enemy and harvests energy from them, with an interval of 2.25 seconds. Everything except for that pulse interval is affected by mods. Her second ability, Augment, is Vampire Leech, and what that is excessive energy regeneration will instead restore shields by 225%. That 225% is not affected directly by mods, however, it is affected based on the amount of energy you are recuperating, so indirectly it is affected. Her third ability is Link, and that is any damage taken while Link is active will be channeled to a nearby enemy. It has a base amount of enemies that you can chain of 3, and that does increase based on ability strength, so bear that in mind. It is a very good ability to have as far as damage reduction goes, but I've found an interesting way to twist it, which you'll see in my build segment, of course. But the only thing that's not actually affected by mods is the amount of damage that's redirected, unfortunately. But I imagine that's because of the fact that it starts at 75%, which, honestly, not too bad. Her third ability, Augment, is Abating Link, and what that is it reduces armor rating by 60% on enemies targeted by Link. And that 60% is affected by ability strength. Her fourth ability is Blessing, and that is restore health and shields of allies within affinity range while reducing the damage they take from enemies. All of that is affected by mods, but the damage reduction does cap out at 75%, unfortunately. Though it is still very helpful to have, especially considering the fact that, you are a healer, so even though it's not optimal damage reduction, quote-unquote, you can just, heal them again if they lose said health. Her fourth ability, Augment, is Champion's Blessing, and that is gain primary and secondary critical chance for 30 seconds for each percent you heal on allies up to 350%. That 350% is not affected by mods, though it doesn't really need to be, honestly. However, the duration is. As for my build, well, I kinda went the tank and gun platform route. I have Stand United on her for an aura, partially because I didn't want to reform her to put, Growing Power there or something like that. Though she doesn't really need more ability strength than she already has anyway. I have Hunter Adrenaline on her, so whenever she gets hurt, I get energy out of it. I do still have Arcane Energize, though I have toyed with the idea of taking it off for something else. I also have Arcane Avenger on her, so that way I get more, crits with my weapons. For augments, I do have Abating Link and Champion's Blessing, both of which work really well. I will say the Abating Link works really well in tandem with Nourish, which I've helmeted onto her second ability, because, why not? Genuinely, the viral damage from Nourish does work pretty damn well with her Link, especially with Abating Link on it. It has been kind of funny, because on a lot of the lower missions, I will just walk through missions and things will die because of the damage from Link with Nourish. But honestly, it is pretty useful even on the higher levels, of course. I did put Vitality on her, mainly because of the fact that the extra health's not a bad idea. along with adaptation, because who doesn't need more damage reduction? I know that I have Well, and I've thought about taking adaptation off because of the Well of Life, but on a lot of missions that I don't want to like sit and stay, it's kind of nice having adaptation so I don't have to worry about that so much. But yeah. As for Archon shards, well, I have all red in this particular instance. One of which is for strength, and 4 of which are for duration. Because that duration for Blessing and for, Link and Nourish is kind of helpful to have. And in the times that I do use Well, comes in handy for that too. As for Deviri, well, she is one of the ones I do tend to gravitate toward, especially if I'm with a bunch of glass cannons, because I've helped extend our runs quite a bit just from being the healer in that instance. I don't typically play healers myself, but that is definitely a game mode that warrants one. As for Archimedia, well, she's not usually my first pick unless I have a crapshoot for frames, which happens more often than I would like. Mainly because I just have shit luck when it comes to these sort of things. But anyways, she's never a bad pick, though, to be honest. And that is because of the fact that, well, it's Archimedia. A lot of high-ranking enemies, definitely gonna need some health. So having a healer is not usually a bad thing in that particular instance. I'm never mad to see her in Archimedia. Even if I end up not picking her, I'm always like, oh, well, that's an option if I end up needing the help. Because there's been a few where I've just failed the Archimedia because the squad wasn't working out too well. And I end up swapping to Trinity and do significantly better. Closing thoughts on Trinity. Well, I really like where she's at now. I think the rework was a good idea. And I know it was mostly just touch-ups, but I honestly do prefer that whenever it's possible, because of the fact that, well, it keeps how a frame is meant to feel and act, but still brings them up to snuff. That's not to say an overhaul is a bad idea in all situations. I fully acknowledge there are frames that needed the full-on overhaul. No argument here. Especially from someone that hated old Inaros. But anyways, I think extending her 4th ability to affinity range was a stroke of genius, because squads don't always stay together. Matter of fact, more often than not, there's at least one guy that's way off in the middle of nowhere. So having affinity range be the range is awesome. Her new passive is awesome. I know I like the old one, but I do like the new one better, especially because of the fact that it does work in tandem with the damage reduction from her abilities. Her second ability no longer benefiting from negative duration is... I mean, it's a good thing, but it also kind of sucks. I like the idea of it encouraging you to build negative duration, because variety of builds is always a good idea in my mind, but I also will say in this particular instance it's not a bad idea to do that to it, because of the fact that it was extremely anti-synergistic with the rest of her kit. And you'd always have to wonder whenever a Trinity joined your squad whether it was, a healer Trinity or it was a vampirism Trinity. And now it's just like, well, it's probably going to be both. But anyways, I like where she's at now. She plays a lot better in my mind. I mean, you may recall from my original Trinity video, if you've been watching that long, that I hardly ever touched Trinity before making that video. I will say nowadays, ever since the rework, she is one I play with a lot more. And to be fair, it wasn't even immediately after the rework that was the case. It was once I figured out a interesting interaction with Nourish and Link that I was like, alright, yeah, I'll do that. And it ended up becoming a frame I really like playing. She's actually the support frame I tend to go to. Get plenty of water. Thank you all for watching, and have a good one.